Welcome back to Some Parts Not Included, a podcast where three lifelong amputee friends hang out and talk about all things amputee related. My name is Amanda Marie. I'm a right leg amputee, and these are my co-hosts, the Jamies.
Hi, I'm Jamie, and I'm a right arm below the elbow amputee.
And I am James, and I am a left arm below the elbow amputee.
So today we have, I guess it's not really a fun topic at all to talk about, but I think it's an important one to talk about, and that is, do we feel more vulnerable to violence being disabled? And I think I know where we're probably going to be at based off of just knowing each other, but yeah, I'm interested with, I feel like I'd like to hear Jamie's perspective first.
Yeah, that's where I was going too.
Okay.
Jamie's perspective
She's so antsy. I feel like she's got stuff to share. So I like
I think it's going to be quite the contrast between all of us.
Is it because I act so tough? I don't know if I actually really am that tough, really.
It's all an act.
Yeah. I think that yes, sometimes I do feel vulnerable to violence. I think more so now. I don't think I really did a lot until maybe my 30s. But I'm finding it more so now, and I don't know why. Like, I don't know really the difference between before that and now. But yeah, I think mostly though is that when I'm out in public and wearing my artificial arm, I do feel like I have a built-in weapon if needed. It's so weird to say. but it's so true though. Like, I have a built-in weapon if I need to. But generally I don't know. I don't think that it would be more vulnerable to violence.
You also have a weapon that can be used against you.
How?
Because I have had an altercation before where someone has taken my arm off and used it against me. This was in elementary school days and high school.
How did they get it off without you? Like,
have you ever asked someone to see if they could pull your arm off? Like, do you think you could actually keep it on? You think you could? You can't. Like, if someone wants to take that off of you, they could rip that off your body.
No.
Really?
Yeah, no.
You don't think so?
No. No, I don't think someone could rip it off easily. Like, I mean, I guess if they were really trying, maybe.
Why would anyone want to do that? That's the question. Like, that's where I keep going. Like, God, it took a really dark turn. I'm sorry to our audience. It's only because that happened in elementary school. It happened to me, right? Like,
but that's the thing. Is that would that happen now?
No.
I've never once thought about someone taking my artificial limb off my body and then using it against me as a weapon. So now I have a whole new set of fears.
It's a crazy world out there, man.
It is.
I don't think that would happen. I really don't think that would happen. Mine definitely does not come off easily. And I have to be like in a very specific position for it to come off, unless I'm very sweaty. But generally I'm not going to be wearing it if I'm super sweaty.
I mean, as a leg amputee, I don't fear this really at all because there's so much effort that would have to go into stealing my leg off my body to use it against myself. Also, though, I've had a lot of people say to me that I would be able to use it, as a weapon. I would never, for starters, unless it was
built in. Amanda, come on now. It's there. It's right there.
Self-defense?
Yeah,
to defend yourself from a mugger, maybe. But like in Amanda's situation, what are you going to do?
That's what I was
get out of here! Like, you got to hop on your.
Am I missing something where this would actually be easy? It's like, oh, hold on, let me like undo my belt, take my pants off, take my pants off of my leg, and then attack you. I feel there's other ways that are more efficient to defend myself. And then also, I'm without a limb. So what am I doing? Hopping away at the slowest speed possible? Like none of that actually makes sense. Although you'd be surprised, or maybe not surprised, how often people have actually suggested that to me.
Wow, it's
That
funny
is
when you
a lot
started,
to go
Jamie. I
through.
didn't know where you were going with that, and then you're like, when you were talking about it, and then when you went into saying, "Hey, but like I have a weapon on me," like I didn't, I just didn't see it going that way. That's what's
To be
you.
honest,
I wasn't even thinking that until you said
No.
it, and I'm like, I guess so, yeah. Like, and when it comes down to it, it's really hard. You hit
yes,
someone.
that's exactly what I'm thinking. The other thing too, I think, is that if someone truly wanted to steal from me or be violent with me for any reason, like they would think that it's super easy pickings. Like why would you go that direction? Like I'm just a five
Like
foot.
you're an easy target.
Yeah. Or
So is the
I'm just
question like because as a disabled person, you're an
See,
easier target, that you're more vulnerable to someone?
the reason
Any
this even came up as a subject to me, and I became interested what your thoughts were on it, is because I heard a statistic provided to me. I cannot quote it verbatim, so don't expect me to. But I believe the number was something like those that are disabled have a 70 times more likely are at risk or more vulnerable to violence.
wow,
That
really?
was my reaction statistically.
That's
And I
crazy.
I did a I just found this out like a few months ago. And it made me do exactly what Jamie's doing, where I was like, hold the phone. What? Why? It makes sense when you think about it. Because
does it?
if you're a criminal, if I'm thinking like a criminal, let me tap into my criminal mind. You're going to go after an easy target, maybe. I don't know. That's
It's
my
like stealing a
assumption.
purse from an old lady.
Exactly. So again, you're picking something that's an easier target. Like elderly people are also at a higher risk. Same with women are at a higher risk. So I love so much that I got to check off more than one of those boxes. And that it was I already so for me, I feel prior to this finding this information out, I felt way more vulnerable just as a female to violence through my own experience. If I don't know if I've addressed this before on the show, but I did have a stalker previously, slash, still do. And that made me very
Oh,
uncomfortable, even for a long time, to even do a podcast or start a YouTube channel or make myself public in any way. So I do hold back on sharing a lot of things for my own safety. And that was not someone who was an ex partner or someone I dated. It was an old coworker. And it was someone who still came after me and was looking for me 7 years after I had even worked with them. So it's such an extreme situation. And it put me on such high alert all the time, everywhere I go. And even in the past year, they've contacted me. So it's not something that they will back off of, right? So I do know when I walk out of my house, like my house is very secured. There's cameras everywhere. Everything is locked up. I got guard dogs. I've got everything that I can legally have to keep myself safe. But that's all not because I thought of it from being an amputee or someone with a disability. That was purely just from my experience as a female dealing with other males that were um I don't know even the right word, but inappropriate, I guess I'll say, towards me. So when I found out statistically that amputees, or not amputees, but disabled people in general, were statistically more higher and as such a alarming amount more, then I started being like, is anyone else self-aware of this? Because I was not self-aware of this.
I think,
It
I
sounds
mean,
like
I
you
think
guys
you I think you kind of like really hit it on the head now, or hit the nail on the head now for me, because thinking a little bit about it, and where I find that it's more of an issue now than I did, say even 10 years ago, even in my early 20s. Um, I think that, you know, more so now, where like I'm a little bit more social than I was at that time, or when things like that. Like I think that maybe that's why I'm finding that it's more of a thing now than it was then. I have more money to go out and do things. I have more money to travel. I have, you know, that kind of stuff where it puts me in situations that are outside my home. So where I'm finding more unsafe places. Maybe
I
that's
do
why.
find with a lot of my friends, as they get older, they tend to be a lot more aware of how messed up the world is, and how, like, I think the truth is we always think it's not going to happen to us. It's always somebody else's story. You heard it, a friend of a friend, or you heard it on the news, and you never think that these things can actually happen to you. But that's not true. It can happen to any of us. And so as we get older, it's almost through our experiences and our development of our emotional intelligence that we start to connect and realize, like, we are vulnerable to those things, or we can be that person it happens to. So I'm curious if it has to do something with, maturity as we get older. Often my friends that say it are parents, though, so that's a justified fear because now they have a little that they're applying all these things to, so that tends to escalate it. But you and I don't have kids, so
No.
that's not that's not a factor here.
No.
But James, how do you I'm curious how you feel about hearing this, or how you felt. Obviously, I don't think any of us really thought of it previously.
Yeah, I I'm surprised to hear your stat, but I'm surprised, but the more it sinks in, I'm almost kind of not surprised that that the group of people who are disabled might be a little bit higher of a percent. You know what I mean? Higher of a percentage to more vulnerable to violence. But I I like this kind of this topic just didn't really ever phase me. I don't feel that. Like I don't think about it. I also I feel like my amputation is also not as visible all the time, like especially in the winter months and stuff. Like you probably wouldn't even know I'm an amputee unless you're right up next to me, or you really focus on my hands or something. Or if I was walking down the street at night and someone did notice that, I would really be that more of a target. You know what I mean? Like an easier target. As Jamie said, we're carrying around a weapon on us, so that might deter people. But no, I thought it more in terms of like in like when I was younger, in an elementary school and in high school. Um, I was kind of thinking back to those days, like when I was a kid, was I more vulnerable to violence? And I thought it, it was it's a good question because I kind of felt like I was less vulnerable to violence because people don't want to, like, there's always, with boys, there's always fighting and competition in classes and schools. And I always had friends that would stick up for me and fight for me. No one ever wants to fight like a disabled person, an amputee, someone who has only one arm. Like that's not an honorable thing, right? Like, and that kind of bugged me. I was like, why don't you want to fight me? Like I can fight you. Like it hurt my feelings. Like
I'm laughing just because one of my best friends I grew up with definitely did not have that same thought process at all, but in a loving way, where they were like, I have to make sure you're tough because people are going to bully you or going to
they're
be
gonna mess
mean
with
to
you.
you. So I'm going to be tough on you so that way but in like a lovingly older brother kind of way. That's the best way I can describe it.
Yeah.
They
So I
didn't
had
take it easy on me at all, including like wrestling, pile driving me down onto like the pavement, like all these really aggressive, playful stuff. You know who you are.
yeah. Well, that's like kind of like
But in a way that like their mom was always yelling at them, like,
that's
be
like
like,
play
not be
fighting.
like
That's like a
that.
big brother kind of thing. Like, oh,
Yeah,
toughen you
yeah.
up in case it happens. But in my, I like I said, like yeah. So I had friends in school that that would stand up for me. So I felt like a little bit less vulnerable to violence because no one wanted to. no one really wants to do, no one wants to fight someone who only has one arm. So, and that always bugged me a little bit. Like I said, I don't know why it like, because I'm like, I can do anything like that. That's always been my, my
You want
personality or
people to fight
whatever.
you?
No, I don't. But it's just like, for some reason that it still hurt me a little bit. As an adult now, I was thinking more in terms of violence in sports, and as I play a lot of sports, and I play hockey, and it's a very passionate sport, and it's a lot of testosterone. And I'm not that type of player where I want to fight. I don't get into it. I don't get into like a lot of teammates will get into the yapping to each other and pushing and shoving. And like if I'm on the ice, you know, I'll make sure no one's going to be jumped or kind of like try and calm things down. Okay, guys, like we got to work the next morning. Like this isn't, you know what I mean? This isn't the
Yeah.
NHL. We're all here to have fun. Like, but boys will be boys. And then, but again, it's just like no one would ever, I don't feel vulnerable to violence because no one would ever want to really fight a one armed guy in a hockey game. So I'd have to have someone else. And again, I'm like, well, it makes sense. I don't want to fight anyway, so it doesn't matter. But because generally in fights, you kind of just you use one hand to grab a jersey, and then you would punch with the other hand. So no one's gonna hockey fight me like as an amputee. Like so I guess I feel less vulnerable to violence.
Okay.
That was sort of my perspective. Again, I think it's really different between male and female, right? Like
Absolutely.
I think there's a
Thank you for
huge,
saying
obviously a huge difference there. Like females would be more vulnerable to violence from other men, right, towards them, and yeah. So that was sort of my take on it, my perspective. I don't really feel vulnerable to violence, but now that you've mentioned that stat, maybe it's got me thinking a little bit. But as a parent, um, again, you just said like you were talking to another person who is a parent of a child, so like yeah, nowadays like I'm more obviously overprotective of my daughter, and I think about that more. Yeah, having a daughter, it's good to hear your perspectives on, especially since she's also an amputee, right? To hear your perspectives on it, and it really got me thinking now. So it's like I better make sure I'm there to protect her. Of course I will be, but it's definitely opened my mind a bit.
I
and
actually have something else too to kind of add to that. It's really interesting because you do silly things like have arm wrestles and things like that or whatever with people. One of the things, and I think that this is a really good subject for another episode, but one of the things that we all have is that our bodies have developed completely differently because we're amputees. One side of our body can be silly strong, much more than it should be,
Hmm.
and do things that it probably should not be able to do, whereas the other side of our body is going to be almost the opposite of that. And so one of the things that my massage therapist has said to me a few times is that it looks like you spend your entire life using the one hand you have, like using specifically the thumb. And like it's probably really hard to notice, but they say that that the palm of my hand, where my thumb muscle connects in, they say that that's one of the strongest. My massage therapist says that that's one of the strongest muscles there that she's ever seen. And so I also have a
Hmm.
very small hand, like very small.
That is small.
Very small.
That is small.
But my massage therapist, when they specifically work on that part of my hand, has commented many times that it is very, very strong. So that's also an interesting part too, is that there's certain parts of our bodies that do feel stronger or are stronger. So that's kind of an interesting thing to add to it too.
so you feel very adequate to take someone on because your strength is deceiving.
Yes.
I
Basically,
don't
what
know
she's
if I would
saying
say
is
that.
they might see an amputee and think that you're more vulnerable to violence, but if they come up to you and try to mug you, they have no idea that you have a super arm to smash them with,
I also didn't think of this
like
till
Popeye.
now. Also, do I feel more vulnerable because I'm missing a leg? So therefore, I already know I have not a great chance of outrunning this individual.
I
I've
didn't want to
never
say
thought
it.
about that.
I didn't want to say that, but I thought that
I wish you didn't
because
say that. It just occurred to me. And
yeah, your mobility. I was going to mention the mobility thing. Is like Jamie and I they might not even notice we're more, a disabled person or missing a limb. They might not notice that you are, but if they do, we can run and
it's
you won't
pretty
be able to.
noticeable.
If you have long pants on,
It's still really noticeable
is it?
because I just have a peg leg at the current time. So the pants are not filled out.
So if it's really windy, they can see that it's just or they
Not
just
even if
always,
it's really windy. Just one leg is literally like a pole with pants around it.
yeah, 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 yeah.
And then the other one, as JB stated, absolutely solid, muscular trunk of a leg that's like a beast. But like what? So if you come really close to me, I could kick someone really hard. Like that I'm well aware of. You don't want to get behind the power of, unless I'm having unless it's rainy outside, my arthritis is bad. then, then
So hopefully you don't get mugged on a rainy day, but you could literally you could kick them like a football field, man. So so what we've established today is that as an arm amputee, we have one hand that's got like a super punch, and as a leg amputee, you have one leg that's like a super kick. So
this might be,
we're superheroes, really, when you
I
break it
love
down.
that that's the conclusion because I couldn't agree more. I also feel, and this could be just part of it, not all of it, but I do feel I love true crime quite a bit. And a huge reason why I like true crime is, for one aspect, just the psychology behind these individuals who do heinous acts that I can't imagine. But the flip side is always for me, how would I be able to outsmart? I'm a very intelligent human being. I might not be able, and I'm short. So, like, my legs aren't going to carry me too far too quickly. So, I need to use my brain power to outsmart these individuals, think ahead, plan ahead, um, which might sound ridiculous or trauma based that I live my life like that. I don't think of it as like a negative thing though. Like I quite often think to myself, I'll post things online after I'm at a location. I'm not posting while I'm at a location, like little things like that. And maybe it's because I've had to be extra careful. Um, with having a stalker, so it makes your brain constantly think in advance how to outsmart somebody else. But I don't know, it's an interesting connection for me anyways, that I actually feel less vulnerable, in the sense of I feel very well prepared and equipped as I possibly could be in case something like that were to stumble my way, because we all know how great my luck is, so
Well, hopefully they're actually stumbling towards you rather than running.
boom boom. Funny enough, though, with that being said, super quick, there was an individual who was kind of being inappropriate and creepy towards me. And the first thing I thought was, they are not able to catch me. So I didn't fear them because I knew I could outwalk them, let alone outrun them. I knew I was stronger than them. So for me, that instantly became that, yeah, they're inappropriate or creepy. It doesn't make the behavior acceptable. I will still correct it. However, I felt more empowered because I had that physical advantage. So
That's awesome.
kind of interesting.
Mhm.
Uh,
Mm-hmm.
Speaking about vulnerability, and this is a subject I get very vulnerable about, asking for help. How do each of you feel about this?
Um, can I go first on this one?
Yes, go.
I, when I was, it's a tough one. Um, the older I get, the more I'm okay with it. Let's just put it that way. When I was younger, I didn't want anyone to help me. I wanted to do everything. I wanted to prove that I could do anything that anyone else could do, and I think a lot of amputees feel the same way, because of all the amputees I met, and I know you guys know this, but like that's like the determination level in amputees is higher than the regular able-bodied human, because we have to we're always proving ourselves. We always have to show people that we're able to do something. So I always hated asking for help, but the older I get, the more I'm okay with asking for help, and it's okay to ask for help if you need help, because there are certain things that it's that you need, that you may need some help with, and it's okay to ask for help, like with like I don't have any specific example, I guess, but I was
Dishes.
just thinking dishes. Yeah, dishes is one thing that is a pain in the butt for amputees, absolutely, like the bane of our existence. And what about folding laundry? You guys like doing that?
I
I think
just
that's just, everyone hates doing that though.
I
Everyone, no
actually
one.
I'm the weirdo that likes it.
Oh my god.
because you have a good
I
Wonder
had
why.
wingspan.
What?
Your wingspan. You like
Very
your
short.
boobs.
I
No,
got
trying to
T-Rex arms that go to here.
I don't
trying
think
to
So
you
fold
can say
sheets.
that. You can't
Brutal.
say that you have T-Rex arms. Come on now. Come on, like
I love the dangly sleeve. That's really great. I don't
true,
have the
true.
dangly sleeve.
Look who I'm talking to. My arms are very short though, but that's
The nub is good for some things when it comes to dishes, though. Like it gets right inside the glass, depending on the glass. If it's like a more open, but yeah, small little glasses or dishes are
yeah.
just a pain in the butt. Yeah, for amputees. So like, so as an arm amputee, we get dishwashers, because that's another thing. Amputees out there who are younger and growing up, that's why you need to use your brain and go to school and get a good job so that you can afford a dishwasher.
So true.
Because yeah, there have been times when well, I mean, like, when I was starting out, didn't have a dishwasher, and you gotta make do, and yeah. But I was thinking, like, that's, yeah, one of the things. Ask for help. That would definitely be one of the things I would ask help with doing. But yeah, no, with tendonitis as well. Like some things get a bit more tougher, and so I definitely, like, more and more as I get older, I'll ask for help. And like, especially my good buddies or whatever, I'm like, I forget where I was, and I was like, card shuffling. I was with some friends from my hockey team, and I felt weird after this, but we were playing um asshole. I don't know why I was like hesitant to say that. Like I shouldn't be swearing, but that's what the game's called. I guess I could have called it president or butthole. But everyone knows that game, card game. But the person who loses has to shuffle, and so maybe it's an excuse. Like an arm amputee can shuffle, so I should have shuffled. But I was like, it's so much easier for someone with two hands to shuffle. So I was like, do you mind shuffling? And I asked the president who had won the game, like, do you mind shuffling? He's like, hey, but wait. And I'm like, do you mind using your two good hands to help me shuffle? And he was like, oh, right, yeah. So I felt it's like a cop out, because I was the butthole of the game. So I was supposed to, I don't know why either word. I don't like saying it on this podcast. It's awkward. It's almost worse that you say butthole, I think. Butthole is
It is.
almost
It
funny.
is.
It's funnier. I don't know why, but it's less offensive, but it's a funny thing. It's a weird word. It's a funny
no,
word.
I think I feel like I'm gonna start calling people instead of calling people assholes more, I'm actually just gonna start calling them buttholes more.
Just 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 call them buttholes.
It'll make me happier inside.
Yeah, so there are small things like that, but they're like, technically, yeah, as a younger person, I wanted to prove I could do anything, and really, we, as amputees, we find a way. We're so adaptive to our environments that's just the name of the game for amputees. We adapt to our situations, and that's why everybody who, like, you come across, a lot of people hate this, but they're like, oh, you inspire everyone just living your daily life. Like, I know a lot of amputees that hate that, and they're like, I'm just like anyone else. Like, but it's true. Like, people, just like I see it with my daughter too, she inspires me. Like the way she does things, I never got to. I mean, my parents would say the same thing about me growing up, but even me as an amputee, I see her and I'm like, oh man, like she figures out tricks that I'm like, oh, maybe I must have used that, or maybe I could use that. Um,
Yeah,
but
that's
yeah,
fun.
this the level is of determination is higher in amputees. We want to prove ourselves, but as you get older, asking for help is definitely not a bad thing. I don't think. What do you guys think?
Amanda, what do you think? Switch it up.
I struggle with it still. Definitely what James said. We grew up with the attitude of we could do anything we put our mind to, and we are very determined, adaptable individuals, or at least I was always growing up. And the thing I'm learning now as an adult that yes, it's okay to ask for help, which is funny because I love to help other people. So when other people ask me for help, I have no problem. I'm constantly trying to ask my friends how I can always help if I can. So it's kind of funny that the thing I would love to do the most and that makes me feel really good, I struggle to receive. And that is something I've been in reflection of as time goes on, especially in more recent years. Um, I am learning to ask. I have found the part that makes it hard for me, I guess, even now, is that even when I ask for help, people will say yes and then they don't come through. And then I feel uncomfortable following up to continually ask them for help. So, like,
Yeah.
the first time was already super uncomfortable for me. And so I stepped out of my comfort zone, but told myself, these people care, they'll want to help. And then when I ask them, they're like, yeah, yeah, for sure. And their response is positive to me. Then I think, oh, okay, that went well. But then there's no follow up. And so then I get really uncomfortable and it makes it harder for me because this is something I'm trying to learn how to do as I get older. And I haven't been getting, and that's not to say everybody does that. I do have some really good friends that are there and they will help and I can rely on them. And I think that's also what I'm learning is that some people mean well, but they just don't come through on their promises. And I'm trying to learn not to take that personally because I always think I'm annoying or I'm a burden. And so I'm battling those mental insecurities at the same time. Whereas they are probably just sitting there busy with their life and they have forgotten and they had good intention. So that's a challenge for me. And I don't know if either of you have experienced that or have tips on to me on how to work through that. That's something I work through in therapy a lot is navigating um, asking for help and the
Mhm.
follow up of it because it seems to be a frequent occurrence for me.
So for me, I think, and we're all three of us are the exact same. We're all hyper independent. We're all very independent people. We've all lived on our own for quite a long time. We've all, really taken care of ourselves for a very long time. So I completely understand why all of us are in this place. And I understand, James, where you're coming from too. The older that you get, the more you realize like I can't do it all the time. Like it's
Yeah.
not great. And Amanda, I totally understand your like frustration, right? It's so hard to be like, I actually need help and this is really hard for me to ask you. And then for you to have to follow up again to ask the exact same question and feel like, oh, I'm bothering them with their lives, blah, 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 blah. So for me, I um have been very, very independent and more recently, I've kind of had to ask for help a little bit more. Um and started to, like I asked for help moving. That was a huge one.
Mm.
And I've asked for that. Moving was honestly the worst. As an amputee, moving is the worst thing.
Oh my God.
It
Yes.
is the worst thing. So um and so I asked for help there. And a lot of people did come through for me, but I'll talk a little bit about how that worked afterwards. And then fixing stuff in my home. So that is something I can't do. I don't know how James has figured it out. Realistically, James, you're a superhero. No idea. I can't do it. My brain also doesn't work that way. I grew up in a household with a father who is a fix-it-all. I have no idea. I don't understand how it works. My brain just does not work that way. So that is one of the things. It's part that, and also part that, like, I just physically can't do a lot of things. Like, I can't put up a TV. There's just no way that's working. I can't like drill holes in walls, and I have no idea. Anyway, my point is that now when I'm asking for help for those types of things, is that I make a to-do list for someone to help me, and then we come up with a plan on how that will be, like, done. So we'll say, look, okay, this is the day that we're going to tackle the next things on the to-do list, and these are the things on the to-do list that we have to tackle. And so it kind of like make an appointment with them almost, and kind of, and I am that annoying friend where I remind them constantly. And I don't think that it's a burden to do that, because people forget. I would forget that we're recording our podcast if I wasn't reminded all the time by my phone. So it's so I think, just reminding someone, I don't think that that's an annoying thing. And I hope that you can try and get past that, Amanda, to be able to do that. When it came to moving, what I did was I created an event, and something that I'm good at is feeding people. I'm pretty good at feeding people. I'm good at food. I'm good at, like, hosting. I'm good at all that stuff. So
Yeah, you
I
are.
called it a moving party. And there were two parts of this moving party: the moving out party and the moving in party. And so I invited, all my friends to the moving out party and the moving in party, promised pizza, promised, things like that. And that's how, people did show up. So it didn't feel like I was just like, hey, do these huge favors for me. Realistically, they're huge favors. They're huge, especially the moving out of my old house part. That was a nightmare. But it felt a little bit easier because I promised pizza. I promised, kind of more of that fun part of it. And same with the moving in party. So many people showed up to do that for me, including my father. Thank you, Daddy. And so, that it's amazing. And again, I fed everyone, and I hosted, and it was quick because I had more people. And that's, I think, another great strategy, is that if you need, like, a big favor done, ask more than one person. I know it feels weird to do it, but it's just like, hey, I have 3 friends who say that they're always there to help me. I'm going to ask all 3 of them and ask them all to come on the same day, so that if we need to do this favor, it's going to be done like that. And it's not even going to feel like a big deal. Anyway, those are my strategies, really.
Yeah. That's moving. I forgot about the moving thing. Yeah, moving. Everyone hates moving.
Yeah.
I will say that when you said, you pick your 2 or 3 people that will, instantly I knew who my 3 people closest to me would be, that I would feel comfortable being like, "What? Help." So, yeah, that's a good way to
I've
look at it.
I've had help. I've moved so many times.
You
I
have.
absolutely hate moving, and
Literally the
it's
worst
oh
ever.
my god, it is the worst. But thankfully, I've had help from a lot of my friends and family many times, to the point where they're sick of it. They're sick of helping me move, but absolutely, you need to you got the right idea, right? You just, like, kind of like, I'm going to get you all this food. I'm going to get you, pizza and beer usually gets everyone there, and they'll help. This time moving into this house, my aunt and came down with her 3 of my cousins, who are all young, strapping boys in their 20s, or muscular, lifting all the stuff. That was a huge help. Thank God. Shout out to you guys. so that was a huge help. My mom and dad are constantly always there to help move, and some my friends from back home in the Peterborough area, they know who they are. They've helped me move 100 times. They're the ones that are like now, like, dude, we're not helping you move anymore. You better stay there. But yeah, no, it's yeah, moving. That's the worst. But to touch on what you said about doing things around the house, like I've been struggling a little bit with that lately. Trying to like do some stuff around like I'm in this house now and it's just like there's so many things to do and like there's a lot that I can do, but there's a lot that I also need help with. There's things that like just are out of the realm of just call up a buddy and come over and we'll do this. Like you need a contractor. So like it depends on what the job is, right? Like you're gonna have to hire a professional, unfortunately, for some of the things, right? Like I've had a few things I've had to repair around the house and like the smaller things, okay, like I don't love drywalling. But like the general things around the house, putting up pictures or fixing little things, like yeah, I've been okay with that. And um, a lot of my friends, they're all like in the trades or whatever. They're all like really good with renos and stuff, and they're super far away from me now. So it's annoying because they're always helping each other out with their houses, and I'm like, I need help. I'm like way far away up here, and but I have a good group of friends in the area I'm in that they'll come over. They help me build a fireplace, help me put up my TV. I have like I had to put up a TV wall mount. So you know what? I don't feel bad, and you know what I mean. Like I have, it pays to have good friends and good help, and if you have that, it's really great too. So
And I
yeah,
think that, like you'll get back to like you'll give it back in a different way. You will.
absolutely.
Oh, I don't ever feel like I'm not doing that.
Yeah.
That is not something I feel inadequate about. I do feel I try my best to give as much as I can in the ways I know how to do.
Mhm.
So help, like I said, I love to help. That for me isn't really a problem. I do think it's learning to receive the help and
Yeah.
then work on the mental struggles and battles of follow up or thinking of other people to ask.
That's what stinks so bad about the fact that we all can't live closer together because I would go over and help you. You know what I mean?
I know this
Do
kills
things.
me and Jamie a lot, and we've had
Yes.
this conversation so many times.
Mhm.
But
Same with my other friends, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
There's only
Jamie's when my mom was sick, I'm pretty sure Jamie had like a bag packed at the door
I did.
and a flight on
Always.
standby
Mhm.
to yeah, which she had
Always.
told me about several times, and obviously I would never have wanted you to unless it was really, really necessary. But yeah. So I appreciate you both and all the friends and everyone out there that is really supportive. And I think it's also key to, as much as I obviously have stated what my struggles are with it, it's also really important to know it's not just disabled people and amputees who need help. The saying "it takes a village" doesn't just apply to children. I think that applies to everybody. No, not we're not meant to singularly do everything alone on our own, whether we're able bodied or we're not. That's just not how humans are built, and it's
Yep.
unfair
everybody
to
needs
put
help
that on
sometimes.
us.
As
Yeah,
my therapist says, we're not solitary things. We are meant to be in communities. We're meant to be together. We're meant to be, yeah, couples. We're meant to all of that kind of thing. We're not meant to live life alone.
Like certain people have strengths and certain people have weaknesses, and they're different depending on each person. So that's why when you come together as a community, you help each other with your strengths where someone
and
has a weakness in
celebrate.
that.
Yeah, and instead of pointing it out and saying that's a weakness or a flaw, instead think of it as that's what makes each of us unique and gives us each value and purpose to each other, right? So I guess that's just something I want to leave us on a positive note, that you can be
Yeah.
both. You know, you can you could see both sides of things, and that's really important to
Absolutely.
address, I think. So
Agreed.
awesome. Well, I think that's a wrap for today's episode. If you have any questions for us, toss them down in the comment section below. We'll do our best to address them in the upcoming shows. If you enjoyed the video, make sure that you hit the like button as well as subscribe to the channel. And lastly, you're going to want to hit that little bell notification so you don't miss out on any upcoming videos in the future. You can find us on all social media at Some Parts Not Included. And until next time, be kind to one another because you have no idea what someone else is going through out there. Peace.
Bye, everyone.